You're listening to the Poo Podcast. My name is Dosta. Here we discuss all things poo. And please do subscribe and comment. And now I present to you episode number 8 from season 1 on the Poo Podcast. I'd like to share a revelation that occurred to me at a particular period in my life, at a particular time. And this revelation was brought about by, quite unsuspectingly, cow poo. And to sort of set the stage a bit and to let you know a little bit about what I was involved in this time in my life. It was the time in my life when I had been experimenting quite extensively with psychedelic substances. Compounds. Chemicals! He's doing chemicals! Chemicals, mate. Oh, chemicals. Too many chemicals. This is a colourful rabbit hole to go down. It's not quite always the most positive thing. Experimenting with chemicals can have many dangerous side effects. It's not exactly something that I can recommend per se because of how many dangers there are and how many likelihoods there are that things can go wrong on many levels. Emotionally, spiritually, relationally, energetically, not even to say psychologically and physically and in terms of your general health. So with that disclaimer, this revelation that I had in relation to cow poo came about when I had been doing a number of psychedelic substances. And when you're in that world, when you're in that space, when you do those journeys, as we could call them, well, things appear as different. Things come across in connections that you wouldn't otherwise normally make. And it was my habit, or at least once I had figured a few things out about the world of psychedelics, it was my habit to really make an effort to bring back what I could from those psychedelic realms. How can you remember what you learnt from a trip? How can you integrate the visions, the realizations, the wisdom, the otherworldliness into your normal life? How you can bring it into your normal life? How can you actually bridge this sort of seemingly dichotomy of worlds, which is the colourful, extravagant otherworldliness that is psychedelics and the boring, mundane, everyday normalness that is everyday life. And to do that, well, I would work with meditation. I would work with integrative practices. I would work with contemplation, self-reflection, with really just taking time to respect these chemicals, to respect particularly the come down, particularly the hours and the days after having been on a trip. And I remember this one time when this particular revelation occurred to me, when I had just been on a mushroom trip. And it wasn't a high dosage, it was just an average sort of dosage level, but nonetheless enough to touch infinity for some time. And I had sort of finished up my trip. It had been a morning trip and I'd had some time to come down and sober up. And I was really quiet. I was contemplating and I was actually driving around because I had spent the trip out in nature, which is sometimes advised, sometimes, well, depending on what it is you want to get out of your trip. And I was basically driving along, just thinking about things, remembering, recalling things, and basking in that after-trip buzz. And I was driving along and I saw this cow poo in a paddock as I drove past, and I thought, cow poo is a kind of waste. It's a kind of degradation. It's a disintegrating, right? And yet this world doesn't necessarily disintegrate. This world actually somehow moves forward. And I thought, well, there is something happening in this cow pat, in this cow poo, because I could see not only was there cow poo on the paddock, but there were these patches of grass where poo had landed days and weeks previous. And it was in those patches that the grass had actually grown further. This was something that we've learnt. This is something that I observed. Where there is poo, the grass grows better, grows taller, grows greener, and you can see all the green patches poking up from where the cow pats had landed. And I thought, well, hang on, what's going on here? What is this? Because a cow eats the grass and then poos what it's eaten, and then that goes onto the grass, which makes the grass grow more. And you would think, well, poo is waste, and when an animal eats something, it takes the substance out of it, it takes the nutrient out of it, and then throws the rest away. And yet, in this cycle, in this sort of poo, cow, grass, repeat cycle, something was growing, right? The cow was growing, the grass was growing, it was going forward. All I could see was the propellant forwards. And this ran completely against, well, any sort of idea that I had that life disintegrates. Life is breaking down. Life is working against destruction, chaos, disorder, hurt. And this, I believe, is the propellant of spirit, the propellant of evolution, the propellant of existence, the propellant of the cosmos. And I believe quite seriously that I found the truth of that propellant by looking at cow poo. Thanks very much for tuning in. That's the end of this episode. Please do leave a comment with your best poo story. Maybe you can share your own existential realization that you had when you saw a poo. And we'll be back very soon with the next episode. So thanks very much. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye for now.